The cane toad catastrophe. A tale of ecological disaster. The introduction of the cane toad, Rhinella marina, to Australia in 1935 has been one of the most devastating ecological mistakes in modern history. This invasive species has wreaked havoc on Australia's native wildlife and ecosystems, leading to a catastrophe that continues to unfold nearly a century later. What was originally intended as a solution to agricultural pests has turned into an ecological disaster of unprecedented scale, affecting native species, communities, and the natural balance of the environment. The cane toad catastrophe is a cautionary tale of human intervention in ecosystems, one that highlights the dangers of poorly planned introductions of non-native species. The origins of the cane toad catastrophe. The story of the cane toad in Australia begins in the early 1930s. Sugarcane farmers in Queensland, Australia, were struggling with an infestation of the native greyback cane beetle, Dermalepida albohirtum, and the Frenchy beetle, Lepidioda frenchii. These beetles were devastating the sugarcane crops, and farmers were desperate for a solution. At the time, the idea of using biological control to manage pests was gaining popularity. The concept was simple: introduce a predator that could naturally control the pest population. In 1935, the cane toad was chosen as a potential solution. The species had already been used successfully in other parts of the world to control agricultural pests, particularly in the Caribbean and parts of Central and South America. The toads were brought to Australia from Hawaii, where they had been raised in captivity. Over 2,000 toads were imported and released in a sugarcane field in Gordonvale, Queensland, in the hopes that they would feast on the beetles and restore balance to the crops. However, the results were not as anticipated. The cane toads did not establish themselves as effective predators of the greyback beetles. The toads' primary diet consisted of insects on the ground, but they were not able to control the specific beetle populations that were causing the most damage to the sugarcane. Nevertheless, the cane toads quickly adapted to their new environment and began to spread across Queensland and beyond, leading to a series of unforeseen consequences. The spread and impact on the ecosystem. Once the cane toads were introduced, they began to proliferate at an alarming rate. With no natural predators in Australia to keep their numbers in check, the toad population exploded. By the 1940s, the toads had spread across much of Queensland, and by the 1980s, they had made their way to the Northern Territory in Western Australia. Today, cane toads can be found in nearly every part of northern Australia, stretching across over 2 million square kilometers. The rapid spread of the cane toad has had a devastating effect on Australia's native wildlife. The toads are highly toxic to many predators, including mammals, reptiles, and birds. Their skin and internal organs contain potent toxins known as bufotoxins, which can cause death or severe harm to animals that attempt to eat them. Native species such as crocodiles, quolls, goannas, and freshwater turtles have been particularly hard hit, as they are some of the toad's natural predators. The toxin in the toad's skin can be fatal even if consumed in small quantities, leading to a sharp decline in the populations of these native animals. The cane toad's ability to outcompete native species for food and habitat has also contributed to its devastating ecological impact. Cane toads are opportunistic feeders, consuming a wide range of prey, including insects, small vertebrates, and amphibians. This has led to a reduction in the available food for many native species that rely on similar food sources. Additionally, the toad's ability to breed quickly and in large numbers has allowed them to occupy a wide variety of habitats, from wetlands to woodlands, further displacing native species. One of the most alarming aspects of the cane toad invasion is the toad's role in altering the ecological dynamics of their new habitats. In addition to preying on native animals and outcompeting other species, cane toads have also disrupted the food webs of ecosystems. For example, the decline of native predators such as quolls and goannas has created a vacuum in the food chain, leading to imbalances in the populations of other species. These cascading effects have been felt across entire ecosystems, with some species experiencing dramatic declines and others thriving in the absence of natural predators. The economic and social costs. The ecological impact of the cane toad invasion is not the only cost that Australia has faced as a result of this ecological blunder. The spread of the toads has had significant economic and social consequences as well. For instance, The decline in the populations of certain native species, such as crocodiles, has hurt local ecotourism industries. Crocodiles, in particular, are an iconic species in northern Australia, and their decline has affected tourism ventures that depend on wildlife viewing. Farmers have also been impacted by the spread of cane toads. While the toads were initially brought in to control pests, they have caused far more harm than good. The presence of cane toads on farms has led to the death of many native species that were beneficial to agriculture, such as predatory insects that help control pest populations. Furthermore, the presence of the toads has caused significant changes to the local environment, impacting water quality and the abundance of native plants. Cane toads have also created difficulties for communities in northern Australia. The toads are now a common sight in many urban and rural areas, and their presence has raised concerns about public health and safety. For instance, the toxin in the toad's skin can cause severe irritation if it comes into contact with human skin, and their presence in gardens and homes can pose a risk to pets and children. In some areas, local governments have been forced to invest in control measures to manage the toad population, which has placed a financial burden on already stretched resources. Ongoing efforts to control cane toads. Given the magnitude of the problem, many efforts have been made to try to control the spread of cane toads and mitigate their impact on native ecosystems. However, despite decades of research and intervention, the cane toad problem has proven difficult to solve. One approach to managing the cane toad population has been the use of physical barriers and traps. In some areas, researchers have built fences designed to prevent the toads from spreading into new regions. These barriers are typically used in conjunction with trapping programs, where toads are captured and removed from the environment. However, these measures have been only partially successful, as they cannot address the root cause of the problem, namely, the rapid reproduction and spread of the toads. Another strategy has involved the introduction of biological control agents that could potentially reduce the cane toad population. Some researchers have explored the possibility of introducing pathogens or predators that might target the toads specifically. However, the success of such approaches is uncertain, as introducing new species to combat the toads could lead to unforeseen ecological consequences of its own. More recently, scientists have focused on genetic research to develop strategies that could potentially limit the toad population. One promising area of research involves altering the reproductive capabilities of the toads through genetic modification. The goal is to develop a population of toads that is incapable of reproducing, thus reducing the overall number of toads over time. While this research is still in its early stages, it represents a more targeted and potentially effective approach to controlling the cane toad problem. Lessons learned in moving forward. The cane toad catastrophe is a powerful reminder of the risks associated with introducing non-native species to new environments. It highlights the complexity of ecosystems and the unintended consequences that can arise from even well-meaning interventions. The introduction of the cane toad has not only led to the decline of native species but has also altered entire ecosystems and caused lasting damage to Australia's biodiversity. While efforts to control the cane toad population continue, it is clear that the damage has already been done. The lessons learned from the cane toad catastrophe underscore the importance of careful consideration when it comes to managing ecosystems. Before introducing new species to an environment, it is crucial to fully understand the potential consequences and to have a plan in place for managing unforeseen outcomes. As Australia continues to grapple with the cane toad problem, the broader world can learn from this ecological disaster. The cane toad catastrophe serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of responsible ecological management and the need to think carefully about the long-term impacts of human interventions in nature. In an era where invasive species pose a growing threat to ecosystems worldwide, the cane toad stands as one of the most stark examples of the dangers of species introductions gone wrong. The future may hold new solutions to the cane toad problem, but the ecological scars left by the toads will remain for generations to come. For Australia, and for the world, the cane toad catastrophe is an enduring reminder that the natural world is more fragile than we often realize. This essay examines the cane toad problem from multiple angles: ecological, economic, and social, providing a thorough understanding of the impact and ongoing efforts to deal with the invasive species. Let me know if you'd like further elaboration or adjustments.